Welcome into Outkick, the show, boys and girls. I am back from New York City. I am off and running at work here. I appreciate all of you coming to hang out with me on this Monday in April as the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs and the NFL draft all kind of come together for what is going to be a massive week of sports. We have much to get to. So before we get rolling, let me go ahead and tell you that you need to make sure you get the best numbers so you can go and get the best possible deal wherever you need to bet, whether it's NFL draft props, whether it is NBA or NHL. Go to sportsbookreview.com. That's sportsbookreview.com, and you will be glad that you did it, and you will be off and running and ecstatic that you got the best possible number. I also want to tell you, let me run through what we've got lined up here for you today in the show. NBA and NHL playoffs are underway. First round coming to a close soon in the NHL. Less going on in the NBA in terms of resolution. We'll talk about everything going on there. The Waffle House shooter in Nashville has been captured. Congratulations in order to the man who kept him from killing more people. We will talk about that story. Colin Kaepernick accepted an award from Amnesty International in Amsterdam, and as part of that award said that police in America were guilty of legal lynchings. Seriously, he said that. Jay Feely took a prom photo that turned into a major story. If you don't remember who Jay Feely is, he's a former kicker. And we had WokeCenter AM this morning weighing in on the incredibly important moment, incredibly important story. What did WokeCenter AM think about Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump? This was a real discussion point. All of that still to come. But I want to tell you right now, it's spring. Spring has sprung. Make sure that you get the best deal you can on your mortgage. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com. You will be glad that you did, and you will save a bundle with my guy, Ryan Kelly. Make sure that you make the smart financial decision and go to him today. That's thehomeloanexpert.com. Thehomeloanexpert.com. All right. I got to hit this off the jump. I'm now going to make this my mantra. I think that the way the NBA and the NHL playoffs are set up are insanely stupid. I think it makes no sense to need divisions or conference in the NHL or in the NBA playoffs. Right now, we have the two best teams in the NHL set to play, the Preds going up against the Winnipeg Jets. I'm not an NHL genius, but it seems to me to be a flaw in the system when two of the best guys best teams actually end up going head to head. So that makes absolutely no sense. You should seed without need for divisions at all. And if you did that, you would be making a lot more sense. Same thing in the NBA, where we have the absurdity of the divisions. I don't know if you're watching this series between the Pacers and the Cavs, but the Pacers had a chance to put away the Cavs, right? And let me go back to the NHL first. This should be the top 8. The top 8 should be a function of who scored the most points over the entire season. It should be Preds 1, Winnipeg 2, Tampa Bay 3, Boston 4, Vegas 5, Toronto 6. This was coming into the season. Anaheim 7, and either Pittsburgh or San Jose, depending on where you wanted to do the breakdown, as the 8. But there's absolutely no doubt at all that that would have been the right decision. The NBA. The NBA should be set up this way. Houston 1, Toronto 2, the Warriors the 3, Boston the 4, Philly the 5, Cleveland the 6, Portland the 7, and then you run into a lot of different uncertainty. But the end result would have been that that Denver should have made the playoffs instead of Washington. That would be the biggest change in terms of the lineups. I don't know why we need divisions. I made this argument for a long time in college football, and I still don't believe that divisions make sense in college football. I don't think the Big Ten East makes sense. I don't think the Big Ten West makes sense. I don't think the SEC East and West makes sense. Pac-12 North and South, ACC Coastal and Atlantic, none of them should exist. We should have one conference, all right, in all of those different sports, one conference. I'll use the SEC as an example with 14 different teams. All you need to do is break it down so that every team in the SEC plays every other team in the SEC every 2 years. You play whatever it is, 3 yearly rivals, and it's an easy math. You run through, you play 5 1 year, 5 the next, you rotate through, and everybody plays the entirety of the conference. That's what should happen. Divisions and conferences make no sense. They make no sense. Just rank the teams 1 to 30. The top 16 teams make the playoffs in the NBA. The top 16 teams make the playoffs in the NHL. It's absurdly dumb that we have divisions and that we have conference setups like this. That's what I believe. I am on all of it. It makes the most sense. And shut up about the rivalries. I don't care about whether the two teams end up on the East Coast or the West Coast. Put the two best teams to play. Okay? If the two best teams this year in the NBA are the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, and they are, in my opinion, they should meet in the NBA Finals. We shouldn't have whatever weak Eastern Conference team gets there. And if you're watching the Cavs, you know that they are insanely weak and that LeBron James's team has almost no chance whatsoever to actually advance. We put the two best teams every year. We slot the playoffs so that the two best teams should meet regardless of where they are from geographically. That would make the most sense. And yeah, I think in the past there was an issue with travel. There's no issue with travel anymore. These guys are flying on private jets. They're kicking up their feet. Go get things done and end up with the best 16, seed them 1 to 16 and play it out. All right, I got to give credit. This guy, this 29-year-old in Tennessee, was at the Waffle House. I no longer, and I would encourage everybody out there to do the same thing. I said on my radio show this morning, I no longer will share the name of any mass shooter. Because I think if you look at the data, one of the reasons why we have such a mass shooter issue in the United States today is because so many people publicize and make these guys famous. So I have made a decision that I will no longer share the name of any mass shooter. And I would encourage every single person in media or every single person who is just a normal guy or girl out there, don't share their name. Don't share their name on any of your social media accounts. Don't share their picture. Don't discuss them at all. And I was challenged on this one because this guy was at large for a while. And I was like, man, should I share his name? And I said, no, you know what? They're going to catch him. And I don't need to share his information. And so to me, this story is the story we should be sharing. And I did the same thing after the shooting at the Parkland school. I wanted to focus on the people who behaved heroically, who had done absolutely nothing wrong, and I'm going to continue to do that. And so for this reason, if one of you guys knows him, I would love to get him on Outkick. I want to give credit to the guy who was so brave that he stood up in this shooting and actually disarmed the shooter and likely saved several lives. And he's a 29-year-old Nashvilleian, born and raised, went to Hunters Lane High School, went to TSU. His name is, I'm going to make sure I get his name right. His name is James Shaw Jr. James Shaw Jr., I shared a link to his story. To me, is a hero. If I were the Preds have their game going on either Wednesday or Thursday, whenever round 2 of the NHL starts. They need to bring this guy out on the ice. They need to give him an acknowledgement in front of the entire situation. James Shaw Jr. Is the guy who disarmed the shooter, 29-year-old Nashville native, and this is I think what we should focus on when these awful situations happen. We focus on the people who were brave, who stood up to violence, who stared death down the gun barrel literally, and made an incredibly brave decision. And some of these quotes, if you haven't heard these quotes, are absolutely fantastic from James Shaw Jr., who said all sorts of amazing lines. But I think everyone wonders how they would respond in a situation like this. He says he doesn't feel like a hero. It feels selfish, he said. I was just trying to get myself out. I saw the opportunity and pretty much took it. He said that some of these quotes, I think, are absolutely fantastic. He had a night out, ended up a late night at the Waffle House. This guy opened fire at about 3:25 a.m. If you're anything like me, you have had many late nights at the Waffle House over that time. I don't think they have any idea why they actually did it, but this guy is the definition of DBAP in a time and place when so many would have potentially been killed had he not acted. He took the onus on himself, and he is, in fact, a true hero. And rather than focus on the killer here, I believe we should all focus on James Shaw Jr., who was a true hero among many of us. Just wanted to go out to Waffle House at 3:25 a.m. When a guy started shooting, he disarmed him, took his gun, and threw it over the counter. That was just an incredibly brave action. So James Shaw Jr., I believe is his name, just an absolute hero in a situation that is far too tragic. And again, I think people say, what can I do? There's a lot of talk about gun control and all these other issues. I think those are great debates. Let the First Amendment process play out, decide what is the appropriate response from our nation. What I am more interested in oftentimes is what can an individual do? And the decision that I have made is I will not share this guy's name. I would encourage all of you to not share the names either. They have found that the number one thing that all of us can do to help make this happen less often, if we want to make something go viral, let's make something go viral that's helpful, is don't publicize this guy and make him famous. Because so many of these killers study other killers and they want to be included in the list of infamy with the Columbine guys, with the shooter down at the Pulse nightclub, I think it was, in the Florida area, with the shooter at the Parkland High School. The guy up in I think it was in Connecticut, who shot all the first graders and kindergartners. Don't make them famous. I understand that there is a desire to try to unlock their motives. Almost always their motive is that they are insane. And if an insane person believes that they will become more famous thanks to their decision, then that is one that I think is the right decision to make. So follow that. Make the smart decision. Don't share his name. He's not loose. He has been captured. He is in custody. He will spend the rest of his life in jail. If he is not executed, he is captured. That is breaking news. He is captured. Yes, he fucking is captured. All right? I'm going to fucking block some of you if you're too fucking stupid to understand the rule. All right? He is captured. He is caught. There is nothing else about him that deserves to be discussed. He will spend the rest of his life in jail if he is not executed as we have the death penalty here in the state of Tennessee. All right? He is captured. All right. Let's talk a little bit about this. Let's talk a little bit about this other situation. Did you guys see the Colin Kaepernick news? Did you guys see the Colin Kaepernick news? That was unbelievable. And all right, I'm gonna read the comments for a second. Reading some of the comments. All right, I'm gonna have to block somebody who's a cunt. Looking at cunts. Who are the pussies in the comments? You're going to disappear and never be seen again. I'm going to be looking. All right, where is everybody? All right. If you, all right, let's see right there. It is dead, murdered people, and you will never be able to return again. Just ready to kill. Maybe not ironically, given the Waffle House story. But Clay Kyle is in the house. If you actually say something that is bothering me, and I look over and I think, would a pussy say this, then you're gone and you'll never be able to return again. And that is the truth. So you got to be aware. Got to be aware at any moment your life might end on this show. If I happen to look over and you are acting and I think, is that what a pussy would say? Then you're gone. We don't need you on the show anymore. Don't need your comments. That's the truth. Do I agree with the death penalty in this situation? Yeah, I'm fine with the death penalty in this situation. In general, I don't agree with the death penalty, but I think when there is zero doubt about somebody's guilt, I have absolutely no issue with the death penalty in cases like these. My issue with the death penalty is when we don't have definite evidence that somebody is guilty. In a situation like this where there's zero doubt that this individual did the crime, I don't have a problem with it. Most of the time, death penalty cases, we don't have 100% certainty and I'm troubled by that. But here, where there's all these witnesses, where there's surveillance video, where we know 100% that he did it, I don't have any issue with it at all. Colin Kaepernick. This is ridiculous. Colin Kaepernick got an award from Amnesty International for being a true hero. And I'm writing a section on my book right now on Colin Kaepernick, which is going to absolutely destroy him and everybody who has been defending him. But one of the things that I find interesting about this situation in general is that Colin Kaepernick went overseas, and everybody's trying to turn him into this great bastion of liberalism and everything else. Amnesty International awarded him this, and he went overseas and said that police in America practice legal lynchings. And I just think that the use of the phrase legal lynching should be much more controversial than it is today, because what you're attempting to say is to equate what's going on in 2018 with what happened in the 1930s, the 1940s, the 1950s, and the early 1960s. And frankly, there's nothing at all similar between those situations. Police who kill anybody, white, black, brown, whatever color, are actually more likely to be charged with crimes. Now, a jury oftentimes has difficulty convicting a police officer because when you watch the tape and see it from their perspectives, it's difficult to prove that somebody committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. That's an insanely high standard. More media should be pointing this out, that Colin Kaepernick, when he is saying that police are guilty of legal lynchings, when he is saying that, he's making it more likely that police and that young minorities are killed, because he's ratcheting up the tension level between police and young minorities. That's the truth. Because young minorities are thinking, oh, I shouldn't obey a police officer. And police officers are thinking, man, we're getting killed at an insanely high rate right now. And they are insanely nervous about their interaction with young minorities. At a time when we need to dial down the tension and make the standard rule, listen to police. Obey the commands of police officers. We have people who are in positions of prominence saying, don't trust the police, don't listen to them, don't obey their orders. I tell something crazy to my kids. If a police officer tells you to do it, do it. That's what I was told when I was growing up. There are lots of kids today being told right now, if you are out there and a police officer tells you to do something, then you should listen to the police officer. If you believe your rights are being violated, then you can file a lawsuit later. You can make a complaint later. When somebody who is in a uniform with a weapon tells you to do something, you should do it. That is what the police are there for. When you do not listen to them, when you pull a Michael Bennett, when you run, when you behave in a suspicious manner because you don't trust the police, you put yourself in infinitely more danger. Now, the truth of the matter is this. It's insanely rare to be shot by the police. If you don't have a weapon, your odds of being shot by a police officer, and I keep hitting this home again and again and again because I think the media does a bad job of this, you're more likely to be killed by a bee, wasp, or a hornet. Okay? You are more likely to be killed by a bee, wasp, or a hornet than you are to be unarmed and shot by a police officer today. You are 5 times as likely when you leave your home to be killed by a train as you are to be killed by a police officer. So the media has allowed this fundamentally untrue narrative to be sold, and they have used Colin Kaepernick to sell it. Okay? If you leave your house and you're not afraid of being killed by a bee, wasp, or a hornet, or a train, then you should have absolutely no fear of the police. The police are actually more likely to kill white people and Hispanic people than they are black people. 25% in the last year of people shot and killed by police who were in this country were black. 75% were white, Hispanic, or Asian. That's the truth. And so people have used this false narrative sold by Colin Kaepernick to reward him all over the place. And frankly, I do think this could be helpful. Somebody just mentioned Candace Owen, a prominent black, I would call her opinion maker, who is not on the far left wing. She's fairly moderate in the way that she responds. Kanye West shouted her out over the weekend. And I actually think this could be somewhat useful. I think Kanye West is pointing out something that I think is insanely important, especially given his import in the culture. Being a victim is not a good thing. Being a victim is not a good thing. In the country today, we have somehow created an entire generation of people that aspire to be victimized. They can't wait for somebody to be racist towards them. They can't wait for somebody to use a racial slur. They can't wait for somebody to say something that is, quote, offensive. They can't wait to tear down statues or attack books for words that make them uncomfortable, whether it's in To Kill a Mockingbird or Huckleberry Finn or Beloved. It doesn't matter what the context of that word is. We have to send the message. This is really what DBAP is all about. Being a victim is not a good thing. Being a victim should not be your goal and aspiration in 21st century American society. You should never want to be a victim. You should want to control your future and be the agent of your own success. Rely on the hand at the end of your sleeve. There are so many people out there who dream of being victimized. Think about this for a minute. Like, the best thing that could ever happen to them is they become a victim. And as a result, we have expanded the notion of what a victimhood is to the point where if somebody says a mean word to you, you curl up in the fetal position and demand that something happen to them. People spend all day on social media going through old comedians' jokes, trying to find something that they don't like or that was inappropriate. Not an actual act, but a joke. Being a victim is being a pussy. All right? Your goal in life should be to not be a pussy. And so we have to stop encouraging all these people out there who believe that the woke mindset demands that they believe America is an awful place and that the world is allied against them and conspiring to defeat them. There's several stats you can share, but I just like the next time the most woke person says to you, America is a fundamentally racist country, I'd like for you to respond with this fact. If that were true, why are Asian men by far the highest earning in America today? If America was a fundamentally racist country, wouldn't it be awfully hard for Asians to have arrived mostly in this country in the last 100 years and now be the highest earning in the entire country? Wouldn't that be a really difficult thing for them to accomplish? Unless you're going to argue that there's some sort of yellow privilege out there. This to me is fascinating. Nobody has a good response. They're like, their culture is different. Yeah, their culture demands excellence. Just like the black culture did during the civil rights movement. We are a country that in order to succeed demands excellence. You can't succeed by perpetually becoming a victim. That gives you an excuse and a reason not to work as hard because you believe the country is allied against you. Asian men, it's a great stat, blows left-wingers' minds. Asian men are the most dominant in terms of income in the country today. They dunk all over white guys. Asian men. Is there yellow privilege? If there must be, because the whole world must be designed to ensure that Asian people test high on scores, test high on their standardized tests, get into all the best colleges, produce tons of amazing content, and are rewarded with it in a market-based economy. Just something to think about when you use victimization as a constant rationale. And that's what the left wing has fallen into with identity politics. Everything is victimized. Why is there such an Asian and a white guy pay gap? Do white people need affirmative action now to catch up with Asians? Maybe so, because Asians are kicking everybody else's ass all over this country. All right, there's a couple of other stories that are out there that I think are just emblematic of the failure that exists in the country today. First of all, did you see ESPN cover the Jay Feely prom photo as one of the top stories in America? I don't know if you guys saw this. This blew my mind. Jay Feely reenacted the Bad Boys photo. If you remember back in the movie, his daughter was going out to prom with a guy and he took a gun, didn't have a clip in it, didn't have any bullets in it, and posed in between them in the prom photo with a gun, i.e. threatening the boy, you better behave or else there's going to be hell to pay. All right? This is actually kind of a funny joke. I can understand if you don't think it's a funny joke, but it wasn't remotely controversial. And most people have no idea who Jay Feely is. He's a former kicker for, I think, the Miami Dolphins back in the day. Now he may call games for CBS. Jay Feely is let's put it this way. Jay Feely is infinitely less famous, maybe funny too, but infinitely less famous than I am. All right? I am infinitely more famous than Jay Feely. How in the world did this turn into one of the top stories in sports? Who out there was like, you know what the number one story in sports should be this week? In the middle of the NBA playoffs, in the middle of the NHL playoffs, in the middle of the NFL draft, a retired Miami Dolphin kicker standing, holding a gun in his daughter's prom photo. ESPN made it one of the 6 biggest stories in the world of sports over the weekend. I mean, first of all, I agree. He shouldn't have apologized. It's a joke. People don't always like jokes. They don't always agree with every joke. There also is a general perspective that I would say here, which is this. If every single person thinks that a joke is funny, the joke's probably not funny. All right? In the grand scheme of things. If you are belly laughing at a joke, it's probably not going to be appreciated by 100% of the audience at large. Unless you're just an ignoramus and you're like, America's Funniest Home Videos is the most funny thing ever. Jokes that 100% of people laugh at are typically not that funny, and they're frankly not that smart. So this thing, don't ever apologize for a joke. I've never apologized for any joke I've ever made, and so I don't think that I ever will. If you don't like it, then go figure. It's not for you. But there are all different kinds of jokes. I don't think a comedian should ever apologize for a joke. Some people like a joke, some people don't like a joke. And the context matters. The intent to tell a joke is the context. That's the truth. So the Jay Feely story is, I think, evidence of the fact that we're going off the reservation when it comes to mixing in sports and everything else. And again, Jay Feely has a daughter. They were going to prom, whatever. Not supposed to be that ridiculous, but that was the story. Finally, WokeCenter AM, which is being watched by no one. It's being destroyed by the former SportsCenter ratings. Did you guys see this? Jalen Rose on Get Up, a.k.a. WokeCenter AM, decided that he needed to weigh in on Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump. Now, I got to take a step back here for a minute. Why is Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump considered to be news? I think Shania Twain is Canadian. And why is her opinion about Donald Trump news? That's my first question. Who out there was like, you know what? I really wonder what Shania Twain thinks about Donald Trump. Okay? That is maybe the farthest down the flowchart of celebrityhood. She's literally not even an American. And she said something that was not negative about Donald Trump. Something like, I didn't like the way he always acted, but I probably would have voted for him because I considered him to be authentic. Which, by the way, tens of millions of people who voted for Donald Trump in America would have said the same thing. It's not ridiculously controversial what she said about Donald Trump. The fact this is a story is wild. The fact that Jalen Rose on ESPN decided that amidst all of the NBA playoffs, and all of the NHL playoffs and everything that's going on with the NFL draft, that he needed to weigh in and say that Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump was not acceptable, that he felt like he needed to do that. This is like what I'm talking about when I say, how lost is ESPN? Of all the stories out there that you could weigh in on that have nothing to do with politics, ESPN is paying Jalen Rose $3 million a year to weigh in on Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump. This is wild to me. This is just absolutely wild. If you question WokeCenter AM, and by the way, he said her opinion of Donald Trump was unacceptable, which is funny in and of itself, and which is also why not one single ESPN employee who is on air, think about how crazy this is, has come out publicly and said that they voted for Donald Trump. Half the country voted for Donald Trump. It's not like it's some insanely fringe candidate. He is the president of the United States. He won 38 of the 50 states. ESPN doesn't have a single person who has come out and said, yeah, I voted for Donald Trump publicly. Not one. Do you know why? Because they're not welcome at the company if their politics become public. That's the truth. Because they are aware that they would end up on the chopping block and get fired. And so Jalen Rose, of course, in case you were wondering, disapproves of Shania Twain's opinion of Donald Trump. Too far down the rabbit hole. That's WokeCenter AM. I am Clay Travis. Thank you for watching. You can follow me along on Twitter at Clay Travis. This is everything that's good about America today. I want to encourage you to go check out sportsbookreview.com. Make sure you get the best number on your NBA or NHL gambling tips, as well as the offshore numbers for who's going to be the next draft pick. And finally, go get a mortgage today at thehomeloanexpert.com. Somebody just said it. DBAP, boys and girls. Make it your life's mantra. Don't be a pussy. All right, I will see you guys. Hold on. Do I have to block this person? I think I do. See you guys. Love you. This has been Outkick the Coverage. DBAP, boys and girls.